Let's do it.
That looks even worse than usual. What is that?
I've been getting caught up with this one. It's peach.
Yeah.
It's peachy keen.
Nice.
So it's a new delicious flavor. But yeah, I still don't feel that UAE has as many flavors of Monster as like US does. I feel like the
worries
US
me that you know this.
US is the capital of choice and selection.
Absolutely.
to a fault, right?
Do you know what it makes me think of when I look at that can for the camera? It's got almost like a theme on it. And I've been playing a lot of Chinese RPGs online at the moment where there's a lot of heavy emphasis on cosmetic customization, and your cans get ever more, I don't know, nicely designed. And I'm wondering, what's the point where we're going to have digital cans where you can have your own customized theme on it?
Oh, let me come back to that. So what I didn't realize looking at this, because I've never actually looked at the can, it is definitely not Asian. It is hippie.
Okay.
Because on the side, you can see street signs that say Hate Ashbury, which is an area in San Francisco.
Nice.
My friends used to live there. It is a very hippie, like sort of thrift store, record store. I don't know what it's like now. It is
the most San Francisco bit of San Francisco, I think.
But yeah, Hate Ashbury. So there you go. I don't know what that has to do with being ultra or being peachy keen. I don't know what it has to do with Monster. It would feel to me like Monster Energy is the opposite of what Hate Ashbury stands for. But yeah, that's okay.
Most importantly, are you ultra and peachy keen this morning?
I am. It has been a good week. It has been a good, intense week. You were talking to me on the car ride over here. There's been a lot happening, but a lot of really good stuff. You're finally better because your health was bad. We didn't get to record last week because you were a bit sick. But now we're all back.
Oh, good.
We're finally here.
Top of the world.
Yes.
Peachy today.
Yes. And
ultra.
We're going to, I always have 50 topics that I remember I want to kick off with, but I can't remember any of them except for the one you mentioned right before we went on the air, which is an article that we sent around on AI fatigue.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of different things that were called out in that article, and anything from just hearing about it too much, just being beaten over the head with it too much. And I think for a lot of people, you see this now revolt because people aren't necessarily understanding the potential of it or what it could do. And they're sort of like, this is a marketing message gone wrong. The two things the article said that I thought were really interesting, and I'll pitch it over to both of you. The first thing is, with all the speed that we are gaining, where people can say, oh, this report that should have taken me a week, I can do it in half a day now. The struggle that people are having is it's not, and I think this was obvious, it is not creating less work. It is creating more work faster, which means we are sacrificing deeper thinking on that work. Yeah. When I had a week, I could come back to it morning after morning and say, is this the right thing? Am I solving the right problem? Is this the right output? Now you have management that's just like, we'll use AI to do that and make it work really, really quickly, but then you don't really get to think as deeply about it. And so everything becomes just very surface level. Yeah. So that was the first thing. I really like that. The other thing that it said, and I'll give you a specific example, you get gains in one area, but not necessarily in others. And where this is within Sapient, everybody who's been a longtime listener, all two people of podcasts know that we have our own AI products. We have our AI products. And one of the biggest things that we go out and tell our customers is we get, around 40 or 50% efficiency gains because of the coding, right? The engineering team. And I finally raised my hand this week and I said, yes, that is true, right? We are getting these gains. The struggle that I see is we are bringing Figma into code, and one of the unintended consequences is it's getting the Figma 80% of the way there. This means that there is an additional burden on my team to do the QA and the visual defects. So it's saving weeks over here, but it is creating weeks on my plate.
Sure.
And it was like, yes, big picture, we still get the gains. However, it is not just engineering in a silo. When you look at the whole software development lifecycle, different things are impacted. When you change one thing, it impacts different areas of the life cycle. In the same way that when I drink Monster Energy drink, I seem like a fairly healthy person from eating vegetables, but I'm sure it will impact me in other ways down the road.
100%.
So I'll throw that now to both of you.
Oh, I've got loads of thoughts. Do you want to go first?
Well, in terms of AI fatigue, let's start from there. An interesting thing that happened to me last week, I was speaking to my wife, telling her, AI is going to do this, AI is going to do that. I'm actually not sure about my boys' education and what kind of graduation programs after 10 years they will be after and what to train them about. I was a little bit anxious about this, and she told me, you know what? I don't want to listen about anything about AI. I don't want to disturb my psyche right now. I'm happy the way everything is. And she was literally, she's completely from outside the industry. She's not really exposed to anything AI as much as we do, but still she doesn't want to speak about it. And that told me like, okay, is it really an echo chamber where probably, let's say 20,000 people speaking to each other, while the rest of the 8 billion have no idea what's going on and they don't care. So that was an indication. And in terms of the rest of what you opened with in creating efficiencies here, but creating bottlenecks there, I have a couple of things that I would like to also expand there. But I want to start with that AI fatigue about the rest of the 8 billion who have no idea that this is going on.
Let me give you a yes and then I'll pitch it to Dunbar. So the echo chamber part that you said, is it just like 20,000 people talking to each other? I think that is a lot of it. And I can't remember if it was the AI fatigue article or if it was the Matt Schumer article that we can talk about, the X post that we can talk about. But it was, oh man. No, wait, now I forgot. Okay, wait. Okay. Oh, yes. I was going to cue off the kids, the school. Okay, where was I going to go? Where was I going to go for this? Wait, help bring me back here because I've lost my train of thought. Yeah.
Preparing them after 10 years, setting them up for the future. My wife is saying, don't bother me with this AI stuff.
Oh, there
you had your chance.
Okay, go for it.
Moving on to Andrew.
Fine.
So
this is why I need a pen and paper.
Let me join at the Matt Schumer thing with the AI fatigue thing. So one of the things that struck me from the Matt Schumer article, I think we were talking about this just before we started recording, was that it started off really strong. It started off with this big promise around how AI is moving forwards. But for me, it really dropped off very, very quickly, as it felt like more fanboyisms of the same without really saying anything new. And my problem I have with this at the moment, and with the industry in general, particularly around AI, is it's very motivated with people who have a financial interest in AI being successful around tech stocks and companies who have bought into this. They need to see it successfully delivered. So you see a lot of people claiming, well, and I saw loads of adverts on social media yesterday around anyone can now build apps. You should go and try and build an app. My wife did build an app a few months ago, and I asked her this morning, are you actually using it? How do you find it? She told me the same thing, which hits me every single time I try and use AI in an encapsulated way, in that it was great up to a point. And that point wasn't quite far enough, and it became too painful to unpick it and turn it into something useful. So it's got this semblance of being very, very useful. Now, I'm conscious that I'm a very big AI proponent, so I have to be careful that I don't downplay it too much. But part of this, I think, is in how people use it and how people expect AI to be successful for them. And the more I use it, particularly in areas which I know very well, the more I start to find fault with it and find problems with it. And if you've got any doubts in this, try and find a piece of software which you don't know and you need to find out how to use it and ask it how to do something in it. So I was playing with fonts this week, and I've never edited fonts before, but I figured it's not that hard. I use a thing called FontForge, which, to be fair, ChatGPT told me to go and find. It's a great piece of kit. But then asking it how to find things and how to do things in it, it was directing me to menus which didn't exist, to options which didn't exist. When I was asking it for answers, it would very confidently give me, this is what you need to do. Just do this, this, and this. And this massive spew of text would come out of it telling me instructions to follow to do what I need to do. But they're all wrong. And they're wrong at step 1, step 2. So how many tokens did I waste generating rubbish? So I'll come back to your point around, are we getting tired by using AI because we're doing more, but not actually necessarily generating more value. And I would say if you think about a traditional way, and then I'll hand over to you, a traditional way of working, you might do one step at a time. With AI, I feel like we rush 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. So you end up doing 5 steps worth of work in the same time you might have done 2 steps. So yes, you're doing more in time, but it's hard work. And if you're not careful, you end up doing 3 steps forward and 5 steps back. And
But you know why? Because you're experienced. So you know that the AI is not good enough. So you go 2 steps back to fix stuff.
Yeah.
And then you use AI to move it forward. And then you go back because you're experienced enough. But in the hands of an unexperienced person who doesn't know any good, or someone who's not, for example, having the taste about the fonts, anything will be good for them.
Yeah,
so there is more rubbish and garbage coming out of the
really
world because of the people using AI, but they don't know what good enough and lacking judgment.
We need to name this as like some sort of like the Dunbar paradox or something, right? Like I get more output, or I generate more output. However, because that output is not of substance, I actually spend more time to get to something that I need than if I had just done it by hand.
Is it like your ultra drink? Because that basically pumps you full of sugar and caffeine, which cranks your body up like a machine to run slightly hotter, slightly faster, so you can get more done. Is AI effectively a digital way of doing the same thing?
Huh, interesting.
Excuse me, this is zero sugar.
Sorry.
I do remember my point, though. I remember it. Okay, and it works.
Give it.
Cueing off you. That echo chamber thing, that's what cued it up. You only see the good parts on social media and posts.
That's true.
True.
So the people who are so gung-ho about this, everything that they send me is all the positive things, right? It's the same thing with like Bitcoin.
Oh, I can talk to
right?
this.
Or crypto or any of these things, NFTs. The people who are so into it, they only send you the positives, right? They don't send you the articles of like all the challenging things. And so what you just said, that's what made me remember. It's like everybody can create apps now, but still they're not useful. They're not valuable. And we've talked about this. We expand the market. We commoditize the tools, and that's great. However, does that replace the actual sort of hard work that goes into shipping real applications? Eventually, I had this debate with our director of engineering because I said something about well-written code. I'm still a huge fan of well-written code. I'm a fan of how you do your commenting. I'm a fan of tabs versus spaces in this debate. And he was like, why does that matter anymore?
Yeah.
Why does well-written code matter? I was like, I couldn't find a good retort. The only thing
I could cost of ownership. So let me answer that very quick now.
Okay.
You work in an industry which is not really product-based. It's really sort of project-based. So a lot of what the stuff you do has a finite timeline. Whereas if you were to move to a sort of more product industry where that product has to live for 10 years, that cost of operation, that cost of maintenance becomes higher.
TCO, total cost of ownership.
Sorry.
No, damn it. Now, this is, again, why I need paper. So where was I going to go? The idea, of having well-written code. I had heard this, and I can't remember where I heard this from. It was on some podcast, but it was the discussion of how every evolution in computer science or engineering democratizes things a little bit more.
Yeah.
Right. So everybody talks about like, vibe coding, like everybody can do it. And this person's point was, yeah, everybody can do it, but not really. And I think that's what you're getting to as well.
You've just made me think we've moved beyond vibe coding. Now, what we're not doing isn't vibe coding anymore. It's build me an app that does this. That's not vibe coding. That's 10 steps beyond. We were talking about this 6 months ago. Vibe coding is already old hat. That's terrifying.
But it doesn't even, I don't even think vibe coding, unless you are an engineer, really works. And the argument was something like, we had zeros and ones, right? You had machine language. Then you had assembly.
The assembly language,
Yeah.
And then the C, and then the C++.
Where was that? Was I talking
to you
about
assembly language?
Yeah, of course. In the uni, I have computer science degree. I learned how to write assembly and memory optimization and how you're moving bits between registers.
Yeah.
It's absolutely difficult.
Uh-huh.
Who writes assembly right now? No one.
But
Who can produce an enterprise grade software using assembly? No one. You don't really need it. But at the end of the day, the compiler runs on assembly, right?
and so this was the point of whatever that podcast was. It was like you got to C and C++ and Java, and then you started having scripting.
Yeah.
And then the quote unquote real engineers were like, well, scripting isn't real computer science because you don't have to do memory allocation, garbage collection. But now pretty much everything is done in scripting.
Yeah.
Right. But you still need to have the real hardcore engineers who can sort of untangle things when you
need to.
Yes.
And you don't often need to.
And now, so scripting democratized things more. So vibe coding democratized things more. So everything is democratizing things more, but you still, if you are delivering, I would say, high quality applications, you still need to have that red thread that runs through everything.
Sure.
And that's the same thing that I see with user experience or anything else. It's like, I can design an app for this or that, but I still need to sort of understand what I'm doing, why I'm doing it,
exactly,
how to take this to market. Like there is a critical thought piece. And when I go back to what do I teach my kids, I don't know. If I had a kid, I don't know what I would be teaching them, honestly. But the thing that I would want to instill in them is critical thinking, analytical thinking, debate, being able to look at all sides of an argument, asking questions, asking precision questions. So these methods of thinking.
Yeah.
And then once you have that, I think that you can start to pick, 20 years from now, you can sort of figure out where you want to go.
100%. And it also goes back to how we're teaching them how to teach themselves or how to learn. So the skill of continuous learning and continuous adaptability in their lives. Absolutely. And by the way, this argument about education is the same argument that happened 30 years ago when I really didn't want to go into the engineering path, but rather this new thing that's called computer science path. And my father didn't agree with me. And well, thankfully, I continued down the computer science path. Every generation feels like this new thing I'm not sure about. Let's go down into what's conventional and what's tried and tested. Having said that, I want to go to that previous point about assembly language all the way to scripting. And it's never about the tool or the language that we're using to generate code or to publish those softwares. It's about what this software is meant to do. The value of producing this to the world,
what it enables,
regardless of the language that it's being written at.
So everything is an enablement tool.
Exactly.
If I said it that way.
Do you know what Airbnb programming language is? I don't know. Do you know Uber? No, I don't know. But they are successful businesses enabled by technology, regardless of how the code was written, whether it was vibe coded, whether it was written by AI, whether it was written on C# or Java or whatever. It doesn't matter. What matters is this product deserve to exist in the world? Because that's exactly what happened in the late 1990s. Everyone learned HTML. They started to produce a bunch of websites. They look like absolute garbage right now, seeing them 30 years later. But a lot of them didn't survive. And some of them, like Amazon, survived, right? What matters is the value producing with this code and this AI tools that we're using.
I'm going to keep doing yes ands here.
Yeah.
So what you just talked about with the dot-com boom, there is an analyst, Ben Thompson, who writes Stratechery. And one of the things he talks about is bubble economics. And he was saying, if you go back to like the dot-com boom, because everyone's like, we're in an AI bubble, right? We are in this bubble. And so somehow when you say it that way, people can then easily dismiss it.
Yeah.
But his point was that if you go back to the dot-com boom, you needed that to advance technology to get it towards the masses.
Yeah.
Right. You needed to build out the infrastructure. And he goes back to like historically, like the railroad boom and all the investment that went into building the railroads.
Yeah.
And like you had to have all of that. So it's like you lay all this foundation and everybody can take advantage of it. So a bubble's not a bad thing.
Think about
Not
what it
really,
is. It's effectively, it's a lot of people putting a lot of money into trying to get a competitive advantage. What that means is that, yes, a lot of it will fall out, but actually it means there's a vast amount of investment that's going into it to take it forward. So
Yes.
the things that do benefit from that investment will survive. So if you think about the .com days,
and survive and enable
the
so
next
many
stage.
other things.
Yeah.
And that was the key. You have to have the bubble to enable the next round.
I think it's interesting if you look at what we had before the .com days, and I really started my career about 96. So I was building websites before this really blew up just about, but they were really quite a new thing and businesses weren't so engaging with them. They didn't see it as a massive source of revenue, as a way to engage with their customers. And through the .com boom, we opened up so many doors where you wouldn't think really of having a business now without selling through digital channels. I think if that, I've said this before, but I think that was a really sort of the age of information is where we connected a lot of the dots up and got access to a lot of information globally that we didn't have before. I remember days where I'm like, how do I do something in this browser? And I would call up a friend or I'd be messaging someone on instant messenger, whereas now I'd search on Google or I'd look on Reddit or Quora or something. That connection of information was such a big gate, such a big stage to get past. And I really think the one now is, now we've got all this information and we can't consume it fast enough.
Yeah.
AI allows us to transform and consume that information at a rate we've never seen possible. The challenge we've got, and I really like where you were going with the evolution side of things, is that companies evolve, some live, some die by the wayside because of the value they bring. I think we'll see the same thing with AI. At the moment, we're really bad at training it. What we're getting is AI that's being trained on garbage, trained on out-of-date things, trained on good things as well. But you see quite often answers which are flawed as a result. As we get better on training it through human training, through AI training, the value is just going to exponentially increase. And we'll see the same thing. The next stage we pass. And I have no idea what the one after this is going to be, but it's going to be exciting.
It's exciting because also exactly what happened during the .com bubble, it exposed the real bottleneck in the ecosystem. And the real bottleneck was the actual copper wires for that internet. The internet is not fast enough.
Yeah.
It wasn't only the value. It wasn't only the websites that are being created. It was the rest of the community are unable to access those websites. That's why all telcos started to upgrade the infrastructure. They lost a lot of money because they upgraded it for fiber optics, but the rest of the industry didn't catch up. But without the fiber optics, the internet wouldn't have existed. This is what's going on right now because AI has exposed the real bottleneck, which is energy. And that's why Elon Musk wants to train AI data center in space because abundant, infinite energy.
Training bit is the interesting thing for me. And I have one thing that I'm really careful to protect is that I'm very conscious of my own echo chamber. And I have groups of friends that are very digital oriented, very consultancy oriented. But I've got other friends who are very much academics who are really anti-AI, really don't believe in it because of what you just said about the energy costs and water costs, and they're right. One of the things that they post a lot of stuff about why AI is a terrible thing. And I always read it because I think, you know what, you need to test your own thoughts and make sure what you're saying is something you still believe in. There was an article recently about the human cost of training AIs at the moment. This is not a nice comment, so I apologize now, but it was about the adult entertainment industry and how effectively lots of very cheap labor in India is having to go through and train AIs on what is acceptable pornography and what is not. So things that shouldn't be posted, they need to filter them out. The only way they do that is by watching it. So you've got all these underpaid Indian ladies who are watching this stuff, not getting like trauma treatment or therapy and having to go through it. There is a real human cost to getting there. The end output is, well, in time, a machine can then do this so a human doesn't have to, and hopefully we can filter this awful stuff away from society. But the cost to get there, I think sometimes we ignore it and sometimes we forget about it. The energy cost, the water cost, the human cost. I think that companies who are going to reap the rewards of it need to feel the duty, the onus to actually pay their dues along the way to get there. Follow on from that.
I'm going to go back. So I'm not going to follow up because, well, I think things like that have been happening for quite some time because there's been all the content moderators that like Facebook, Meta have employed, and whether it's Philippines or different countries in Africa. I think there's that sort of level of, quote unquote, digital colonialism, whether it's with moderation or data management or these types of things. I'm going to go back to something you said, because what popped into my head when you talked about fiber and copper and all these things, I had one of the most wonderful experiences recently. Sorry, not lately. Recently. I was on an Emirates flight, as I seemingly am every other day. and I went to sign into Wi-Fi, which is always a little bit, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we see everybody's face here. They upgraded.
No way.
Starlink.
Finally.
really?
Oh
Okay.
my
Go
God.
Emirates.
You could stream Netflix.
I haven't tried it recently.
Nice.
It was insane. It worked the entire flight.
Oh, wow.
It was free. I don't know if they'll keep it free, but like this, I can't even describe. I was like, holy crap, I can actually do real connected work.
Why didn't you tell me this 3 days ago?
Yeah. Yeah. So I was
Nice.
absolutely blown away. And where that led me was also some of these other conversations. And I can't remember if I wrote this in our chat group or another chat group, where the whole thing of, I actually use X, Twitter, more now than any other time in history, because they have long form posts.
Yeah.
I find that the posts are more interesting. I find that you do have a nerd tech community on there, which I absolutely love. And what I hear recently is so much Elon hate. And look, there is a level of crazy there that I'm not going to defend. That being said, electric cars, spacecrafts, Starlink, right? And potentially data centers in space.
And robotics.
Right now, maybe what he says in terms of timelines are not always spot on. Maybe things are delivered 1, 2, 10 years late. I challenge you to come up with a singular person who has done more from an whether it is invention or bringing business or changing the world.
Yeah.
And I do have to say that at that level, there is just like a level of expected crazy that I think you're gonna have to have. But it just struck me with all the AI,
really
with all the AI stuff that's going on. Just him coming into Twitter X, laying off like 80% of the people. I don't like how he did it, right? That was a complete sort of jackass move, and how he treated people.
We expect these people to be your perfect politicians,
Yeah,
the perfect
yeah.
movie stars, and actually they're human, they are smart, and they've got the motivation and the funds to do things. The fact is he is doing things. I don't like him. I don't like a lot of the things he says, but
Yes.
I can't argue with what he's achieved. Absolutely
Exactly. And so I was just thinking like, not just that, I was also thinking, I was listening to somebody else recently, I think it was on Lenny's podcast, and it was somebody who headed up growth for some company. And it was a comment of, you should always under-resource or understaff teams because it makes them think about how to achieve things with the means that they have. And she
Makes
was
them resourceful.
yes,
saying-
and she was very specific.
Treat them mean, keep them keen.
She was very specific. This shouldn't be like nights and weekends work. It should be about how that team is resourceful and what they are doing to achieve
100%.
that.
I agree with that.
Because she's like, look, if you just keep adding people, you get a lot of times, which I think was what all of us have. I can't tell you the amount of meetings that I'm in that you're like, why is this a meeting?
Oh my God.
Why do we need to be here? Like, and it is that meme of this meeting could have been an email. And I think within this region, it's actually one of the worst that I'll have. I'll have people on like within Sapient. And I'll say like, hey, what's the status of this? Oh, I'll call you. Let's set up a meeting. I don't need a meeting.
Just
Like
one liner.
and then I'll literally say like, why do we need a meeting? Oh, because we need to discuss stuff. What do we need to discuss? Well, we need to talk about what's going on. Can you just answer my goddamn question? And no, people, and then they call and they'll just start to talk.
Yeah.
Right. And they'll be like, oh, the client said this, or I'm like, none of this is consequential to me. I have a lot of things to do. I don't need you to sit around and take 30 minutes of my time.
But that's a cultural thing.
Oh my
It is.
God.
It comes down to
Yeah.
the way people expressing themselves using meetings and using long form format rather than a single liner that you expect.
But emails are just as bad.
I
'cause
do write a lot.
Yeah.
I will say that my team, if they're watching, will make fun of me for that. But that's because I work a lot in asynchronous type of situations. But
That's the best way of working.
I
by the
do
way.
need to get better. I admit that. But I cannot deal with the like.
I find emails just as bad though, and the reason why I mentioned I was playing with fonts earlier. The reason why I was playing with fonts is not because I think I'm a great font editor, because obviously I've never done it before. The point is, I got fed up of people sending emails backwards and forwards, talking about what needs to be done, or we should go and get the person to fix the font. We should probably do this, find out who owns it, who does it. I'm like, just do it.
Just do it.
Just find out.
Just
It's
do it.
probably a 5-minute job to fix. It turned out to be a bit more, but just go and do it and learn.
Yeah.
And that attitude of it's easier for me to send an email and try and pass the buck on to somebody else who will then do the same thing drives me absolutely crazy, particularly in this day of AI where anybody can do anything reasonably well.
Yep.
Just get on and do stuff. And if you don't know how to do it, there's your learning opportunity.
Have you noticed this feature on Google Calendar that actually aggregates the price of that meeting?
No.
So if you
Oh
put
my God,
if you put the day rate of everyone in this meeting,
Oh my life.
it will aggregate saying this 30 minutes is costing the company $5,000 because you brought 15 people into the room just for your status update. Well, it could have been a loom. So the way, at least we're doing it at 10x, is there is sync meetings that actually deserve for us to do sync work, and it's not updating stuff. This is, we call it GSDs, get shit done or get stuff done, whatever. And we are actually workshopping on something that needs to happen, needs to be worked at. Everything else can be done asynchronously.
I love the idea of having a budget for a meeting saying, you sign off on that budget. This budget's going to cost you $5,000. Yes or no? I'm like, ooh.
So good. It's so good as a feature. And not everything should be a meeting, but it's a cultural thing here in the region that everything is a meeting, and everything is urgent. So I should call you. Like, it's not even, hey, are you free now? It's like you find them actually calling you on Slack or Teams immediately when you ask them this question.
People will call me while I'm in calls, and and that's one of the things I will be nasty about. That I will be like, please check my status. I'm in a. I mean, I'll still say, please check my status. I'm in a call, but I'm like, no. Like, stop that.
Yeah.
Right? At least give me a heads up. If I'm green, maybe that's a little bit more acceptable. But no.
You might be doing your focus work.
Yes.
The reason is...
Then I set to either D&D or I appear offline, which
Yeah.
people still call.
But the reason is that everybody's in meetings constantly, so you can't find a slot. So you're like, well, what do I do? This is important to me, so I'm going to make it important to you.
All right, I'm going to shift things because we got like 10 minutes left or so. 10, 15 minutes left. I'm going to shift things to a very deep topic. This is one of those things we can cut out and post on LinkedIn. Going back to the education of what is coming, the critical thinking, analytical thinking, maybe we'll say philosophical thinking. I had a conversation this morning with the person who runs all of product at Sapient. And one of the things we were going back and forth on was this whole idea, if you read the books AI Supremacy or Empire of AI, that these companies have a culture or think that they are in some ways building God. And I go back to an anime series from 1998, yes, called Lane, right? Japanese animation. And it was all about The Wired, which was the internet or the Matrix, and how you live inside it and how you live outside it. But one of the whole things about living inside it was this idea of the Wired or this character Lane being God, because you're everywhere, you're omnipresent, you see everything. And if you read those books of Empire AI, Supremacy AI, you start to think of like, are these people like, whether it's AGI or the singularity, right? You're creating this being that is omnipresent everywhere, knows everything, can craft new knowledge, can take over stories. And then you look back at books like Nexus, and one of the things, I can't, is it Yuval Harari? Is that how you pronounce his name? Yeah. And one of his whole things is like our entire religion is just based on words. It's just a book. Like we you know, everybody believes these religious aspects, and you're like, it's just words on a page. It's a book. There's literally, you have never experienced anything. You've just read it and been taught it. That's it. And so if you own knowledge and if you own the story, can you recreate God? And then if you go to these other books and you look at what these tech companies are doing, are they creating God? And then you go to a book, 2084. And that was the same thing. The latter half of the book is all about once we create God, how do we look at this technology God in relationship to the analog gods? And what does that mean? And the reason I thought about that with education is I don't believe in the role of AI ethicist, but I do think there is something on philosophy coming back or those types of discussions needing to happen. And I'll just throw in also, hey, quantum computing and the multiverse. Take it away, somebody.
I'm not going there.
That's so deep. You start, Andrew.
Yeah, do you know what? It's interesting because I think one of the things that's at the crux of that is how much agency do we give our AI? So at the moment, I kind of tell these stories and we talk to each other about how AI can do everything and you can do anything with AI. You just tell the AI what you want it to do and it goes and does it all. And if not now, then in 5 years, 5 months, whichever timeline you believe will be there. But the origin of that agency is always human. And until we get to AGI, until we get to a semantic understanding of the knowledge that it's transforming, it will always be with human. The tipping point is when the AI doesn't need a prompt from a human and decides, well, here's the problem I see. I found a way to identify problems and I'll start proactively pushing solutions and actioning them. That, I think, is the difference between AI being a tool and AI being an actor, an effector of change. So I don't believe that religion and God is held within words and that we are creating God. I think what we're doing is creating effective and more effective data processing engines, prediction engines at the moment. The question is, will we get to a point where we are creating intelligence? And honestly, I think it's further away than we think.
Yeah.
I'll throw one back and I'll throw it to you. If either of you have watched Star Trek The Next Generation, there is a great scene from one of the early episodes where essentially Data, who is the android, is in a trial to determine his life and his future. And so follow me here. Picard is arguing one side and arguing, is this machine like a human, right? Is it sentient? Does it have consciousness? And because if we can prove these things, then it should have the rights of a human, right? So it goes back and forth. One of the interesting things that came up within that is he asks the person who wants to dismantle Data so that they can, the android, so that they can understand how this thing is built and they can create more of them. And it's like, well, yes, we want to create more of these, right? This is such a special android, but we don't want to have this, landlocked here. We want to be able to create multiple. And so the debate at one point was, you want to create multiple of these, but you want to say that this thing has no rights. If you create multiple, aren't you creating a race? And if you are creating a race that fundamentally has no rights, aren't you just creating slaves? And man, so now you're going to like God, slavery. And that was such a great moment. But those are the things, right? You start to create these agents and you just supply intent, or agents give other agents intent. And we're having all this argument of what is consciousness, what is sentience. That's why when I think of things like Westworld or other things, the idea of philosophy or debate on these things could become a serious job, not for people who are like me, who just read a bunch of books, but it's like let's go down the PhD route and you have some serious ideas around what consciousness or soul or these types of things mean. But I could see that this could be a real sort of up and coming type of situation that we need to handle.
Is that, very quickly now, but is that only because we make robots that look like us? When we make robots, we want them to look human, to get media eyes, to get likes in the media. Is it because we get our chat GPT, our LLMs to sound like us? Is it because we anthropomorphize everything? Because you don't argue about the rights of a toaster when I'm going to churn out 5 million toasters to toast my bread and how many hours a day it works. But,
or even an FSD car, the same thing. You don't have that kind of connection with the car when it's fully autonomous, right? But only when the
put a face
robot,
on it.
Yeah, with the robot looking like human, you started to have that connection and start to give it a little bit more value than it actually is. Is that what you mean?
I don't know about that, because it's like you have a car which is just a series of controls that do something versus this whole idea of artificial intelligence or AGI. And again, this can mean so many things, but the idea that we are trying to build something that has a level of consciousness or intelligence. I think that's, if you talk to the
it has level of
companies,
smartness and autonomy, but not consciousness. We can go into what defines a consciousness.
Exactly. And this gets the argument of like,
course.
why is this a valuable, why is something like philosophy or at least having that construct of questions.
But here's the thing.
All right.
100 years ago, if you went to an uncontacted tribe in the Amazon and you show them a car or a train or a plane, they will worship it. They will say, whoa, this is demons, this is God, this is something, right? Because it's so far off. They cannot comprehend that, oh, we created this flying machine or this fast machine. And that has always been the case. When you have an order of magnitude impact or invention, people will start to look at it from that wide angle and say, oh, this is the new God, when in reality it's not.
There's a thing about that. So how far detached does it become magic? So how much?
It's magic. But in reality it's not. It's something that we created.
I was thinking, like who are the people who were like the soothsayers and stuff like that, the village, high priestess stuff. Yeah, it was a lot of magicians, right? Yeah. So, but what you just said, if we create something that is so far ahead of us and we become that tribe in the Amazon, isn't that creating God? Isn't that what we're doing?
Only if it has agency. And I think that's the point for me. Because I think right now, if we talk, actually, I like your self-driving car analogy. That if you give it that and you say, well, it's a GPS navigator, I put it in, it's a tool. If I stick a screen on it with a woman's face on it that talks to me and says, hey, Rob, every day, and said, how are you doing? You weren't very good yesterday, but today you look great. Should I put your music on for you? Yeah. It feels like it's having a conversation. I can do all of that with programmatic code, not with any intelligence behind it, but it kind of feels a bit more human. And then when I talk to it every day, I start to build a sort of relationship where I feel like this is my friend.
And imagine if that same software, the same brain is also observing everything you do on your laptop at work. And when you land at your work and you open it up saying, hey, now that you are at work, okay, here's the thing that I just told you in the car, let's work on it. And when you go back home, you open the fridge or the toaster or the microwave, it's omnipresent.
Yes.
But it's a brain.
Okay,
it's a software program.
Okay. So let me push back. Here's your philosophical debate. In the book, I believe it was either Superhuman, but it might have been Life 3.0.
Yeah.
Now that I think it might have been Life 3.0. It talks about the idea that, let's say right now, for people who have hearing issues, you can do the implant into the brain, right? You have things like Neuralink, which are connecting into your brain. So
eyes as well.
Eyes. So you have pieces of technology that can replace certain parts. Yes. You know where this is going.
I do. I like this conversation.
So you start replacing parts of your brain or your person.
Yep,
right?
Whatever memory with a chip, maybe.
Yes,
memory,
you upload your consciousness. At what point do I cease to be human once I get to that 100% point of replacing things?
And if you copy it, is it still you? If you can upload yourself digitally and make a copy, then
downloading Andrew's memories in somebody else.
Yeah.
There was
even biological. Make it a biological copy.
It can, yeah.
So there's a great book, Diaspora. Greg, somebody, I forget the name of it. One of the things it talks about that. So the ability to replicate consciousness.
Yep.
And so one of the characters replicates her consciousness and takes a bunch of different like space rockets off of Earth to go to different planets to find life. And then the whole thing of the character was like, well, what makes you unique if there's 1,000 versions of you on all these planets? She was like, no, because the first one that will find settlement in life sends a message to all the others to kill them.
Ooh.
So you can only then have one. So you replicate your conscious, but there needs to be a way to bring it back.
Bring it back to one.
Right.
But here's the thing, and this might be a good one to end on because I think it's a good answer to
I know we got to go. Yeah.
So let's say you do replicate yourself 1,000 times and you have digitally, biological, however you look at it. We've got this big fixation on uniqueness at the moment, but actually, does it really matter? Is our uniqueness actually of any value whatsoever, or is actually the data processing unit that we are, is that valuable as one or 1,000?
In 100 years, we're all going to be dead.
Exactly.
I don't want to make it doomy, but who knows the full life story of their great-grandfathers? No one. Like, we can barely remember their names. So in 100 years, it might be the same. Of course, we can put our consciousness in a jar and our great-grandkids can take off that jar and watch our life story. But is it It's
like
like
old photos. How many of those are you actually going to look at?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Exactly. If you
There's
found
a
the jar,
realistic way to it.
if you found the jar of consciousness from your great grandfather 100 years ago, if you can load up a computer and it tells you everything about their consciousness, a human that you've never met, you barely know their name, would you be interested to watch everything that happened in their life, or bringing them back to life?
For some people, yes, I think that would be amazing if I could
Sixth
see.
generation or seventh generation?
You're asking me about
Yeah.
my
Would you do it more than
grandparents, who might not be that interesting.
Probably, yeah.
But people who have changed the world in the past, if I could have access to that consciousness or see the world through their eyes and how they thought about solving problems, oh my God, yes.
For you as a living person right now, but for that person, he's already dead.
No,
they don't care. Yeah. So why would they fantasize like we are fantasizing now, or thinking about downloading our own consciousness? We're going to be dead anyway.
Well, because we have a desire to not die, to live on. We have a self-importance, right? So to your point of like, why are we unique? Again, going back to Musk, whether you love him or hate him, the whole idea of the interplanetary species, it's like, the Fermi paradox, right? You look across all these planets, there's nobody else like us. So we need to find a way to protect and preserve that. Maybe not at an individual level, but from a species or race level.
That's interesting. And I think we are products of our time as well. We are products of our environment, products of our time. So if you could talk to Henry Ford now, for example, it would be interesting, but it would be a curiosity. How much value he'd actually add now, I think, is debatable. What I find very interesting is to go on, if you could store interesting people who have the ability to process data in interesting ways, in a way that we can then transform and access it at scale. The individual, the uniqueness, I don't care about that, but the mass learning of humanity in a more effective way, that's very interesting.
I don't necessarily agree, but we have to wrap up because we are getting signals. So it has been absolutely wonderful. We went longer than I expected, and I will see both of you, not next week, but maybe the week after. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. That has been awesome.